Hi everyone, welcome to our AMA session. Lovely to see you all. I'll just give it a couple of minutes to let some people in. But as we're letting people kind of join, just a disclaimer, I put quite a lot of links in the chat, so just to quickly explain. So we have Lukas's Twitter and All About Safe. Please do check them out. All their links are there. On top of this, we also have our Encode links. If you want to see our other events and programs, we'd love to see you at more of our things. And then on top of that, we also have the Twitter page where we keep all our updates. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Yes, please do jot down where you are. We always love to see the global outreach here at Encode. I'm currently based in London, so it's actually very sunny, surprisingly, for the UK. So I'm quite keen on this Wednesday. Hi, everyone, Denver, Bay Area, Mexico City. Love to see it. Awesome. So again, to everyone who's just joined, links are in the chat. Please do check them out. We'd love to connect with you. Amazing. But let's just get started on today's AMA session. Super thrilled to be announcing our speaker for today, Lukas. So just a brief introduction. Lukas is the co-founder of Safe, formerly known as Gnosis Safe, the most trusted platform to manage digital assets on Ethereum. And I'm sure you guys know about Safe, but just in case, Safe is the most trusted decentralized custody protocol and collective asset management platform on Ethereum and EVMs. So yeah, super thrilled to have you here with us, Lukas. Thanks so much again for joining.
Yeah, super thrilled to be here. Thanks, Joanna.
Amazing, amazing. So we'll kick things off then to our first question. Oh, and also, guys, feel free to write down your questions in the question sections. We'll give you some time as well in this session to ask your questions to Lukas here. I'll invite you to the stage, or if that's not something you want to do, just feel free to let me know and I'll read them out. But yeah, just to kick things off then, to start off on an easy note, could you introduce us to Safe and your role at the company?
Sure. So, I mean, you gave a quick intro already. I'm one of the co-founders of Safe. Originally started as a product manager, taking over the project management of the Gnosis Safe project, and then it turned into the spin-off last year. And what we're doing at Safe is we're building infrastructure for smart accounts. So some of you might have heard all the buzz around account abstraction in the recent months, and that's really what we're about, is like building the foundations for others to embrace account abstraction to build better wallets. Because like there's still this issue in Web3 where people get onboarded and they have to write down this seed phrase. They have to learn about key management from day one. They have to struggle with learning about like gas and how to set the gas properly. And like there's a lot of complexities both on the security and UX front. And from our perspective, smart accounts will solve a lot of these, and we've been working on doing that for the last 4 or 5 years, mainly solving problems for teams to coordinate together and store assets, and now more and more also addressing other markets. And many don't know, but Safe is actually the smart contract that's securing the most assets on Ethereum, with over $70 billion secured. So, I mean, initially it was quite scary to think about how critical Safe has become, but now after 5 years, I feel quite confident that the underlying smart contracts are decently secure.
No, we love to hear that. That's incredible. But again, just a standard kind of Encode and AMA question. When you were still studying, what were your plans for the future, and how do they compare to where you are now?
Yeah, so I initially wanted to be a lawyer. I wanted to solve problems for people, and then that was in kind of middle school, and then high school there was like this opportunity to have like a focus topic, and that was like law and business of a combination, and there I kind of learned that a lot about law is I mean, it is about problem solving, but it's also very much like a zero-sum game where there's like a dispute somewhere, and like there's always a winner and a loser, and they're kind of just contributing by shifting to one side or another. On the other hand, I learned so much about businesses, how to build up businesses, how it plugs into the wider economy, and how we can actually solve problems by building new things. So I got quite excited about how can we build new things, then got into technology, which is like a huge leverage in that. And then slowly came into product management. That was kind of with my business background, the most technical I could get. Like kind of being close to engineers, but not actually being capable of kind of implementing technology yourself. And just got excited about like the potential of technologies, and also kind of the progression all technologies go through, where they usually start off being super expensive, hard to use, complicated, and by kind of constantly improving them, you can make them more accessible to more people, more affordable, more just easier to use. And that's really when technology then starts to unleash its power. And yeah, that's what then drew me into the crypto space, because like 2016, 17, like there was a lot of hype around it, but honestly, like no one could actually use it. And there weren't also many applications. So I just wanted to dive in and see what can I build there to make things more accessible to people.
No, that's super interesting. Definitely the first I've heard of kind of transitioning from being initially interested in law and then kind of going into the business and then into crypto. Super, super interesting. But I guess kind of just following up from that question, as you said, kind of going through all these different spheres, was there anything that particularly drew you into tech and specifically crypto as well?
I mean, tech in general is what I mentioned, like this kind of potential that technology has, because it can just very cheaply impact so many people's lives, especially like digital technologies. And then I've been co-organizing some conferences around like startups and technology. I use this to kind of figure out what area of technology I want to dive deeper and want to build something in there. And what happened is this was 2016, and there was like a lot of ICO things happening back then. And so at these conferences, I just met many people that were super excited about blockchain, and yeah, just very enthusiastic and also very smart people, like compared to maybe other technology sectors, like on average smarter people, it felt like. And then I saw kind of all this money flowing into the market. And I had this realization, okay, there's some super smart people that are super excited about this technology, and they have access to all these resources, especially monetary resources. Like something good must come out of this, and I want to be part of it. So I've tried to find my ways in there. Initially, I was working with other teams and just consulting them on like product marketing and how they can have a narrative around what they're building. But then I realized there was a lot of like questionable things around, which kind of just jumped on the bandwagon during these times. And I want to go somewhere where there's like real legit builders, kind of very ideological, very technical people, and that then back then I was based in Berlin, and in Berlin there was Gnosis, kind of the name that was always mentioned, which is the most legit people in blockchain back then, and I would argue still today. And so I just wanted to get my foot in the door with Gnosis. I first applied, got rejected, but maybe that's also for the better because it was a marketing role. And then I got another chance with a product management position, and just from there it came along.
No, I totally agree. Kind of being in the crypto space and just blockchain in general, very supportive people and very, very interesting people to talk to. So no, really, really love to hear that. And I guess just a general question. Did you ever think you'd become a founder at first? And did you have a vision of what you wanted to build at the beginning?
I would say it was inevitable because even from my studies, I was always kind of having my side projects and of ideating what I could build, and a lot of things I was passionate about for 3 months, and then I lost interest. But for me, it was always like very like entrepreneurial driven. So I wanted to build, and yeah, so kind of the maximum thing you can do to build is to really have something on your own. I mean, you can build things within an existing company, you can do a lot of great things, but if you really want to pursue your own vision and kind of push things to the limit, you need to really do things on your own. So yeah, but then within Gnosis, it did already feel like being kind of a founder of the project, even though technically I was a product manager. But it was that Gnosis had so many projects in parallel that the founders, so Martin and Stefan, they were spread quite thin, and they could not kind of push each of these projects themselves like to a large extent. So the kind of project management, the technical and product management had like a lot of freedom already, and it already felt like having your own project within a bigger kind of organization. So it was also then quite a smooth transition from being within Gnosis to then having the spin-off beginning of last year. Yeah.
No, that's super insightful. As you said, like, yeah, having that consistency and that drive to keep building. Could you share some of your kind of key lessons from building and scaling a project in Web3 then?
One thing that's very particular about Web3 is that like the collaborative nature of things. So in many ways, collaboration trumps competition. Whereas in like Web2, it's more about who can be the fastest, who can kind of scale the fastest, who can be the most aggressive, and kind of take away market share. But maybe also particularly because Web3 is still that nascent, and like there's still so much growth potential. Like there's not that need to compete with others, and even better, like or you can even scale much faster if you just very collaborative, if you build in the open, if you build open source, if you try to yeah, have alliances for the projects and kind of focus on what you're good at, but then like partner with others and kind of plug into a bigger ecosystem. That's one thing. And maybe just from like a more of yeah management perspective, I would say one thing that I've learned is to not speak too much, as in like in meetings, for example, rather be the one that first listens and then at the end kind of come in and share your opinion. Like the best also founders, they don't have to do anything because they enable the team and they make sure that decisions are made elsewhere, and they only kind of intervene or say something if they really strongly feel things go into the wrong direction. That's something that's definitely like a learning where like at the beginning you want to kind of always give feedback, always share your opinion, and always kind of make the call on things. But in the end, this is not scalable, and it also doesn't feel very empowering for the wider team. So it's actually like one of my goals also to make myself not needed within the project, not yeah, kind of make myself irrelevant in a way, even though it sounds a bit weird, but like being not kind of being too kind of tight or like too persistent and like keeping control. I think that was a learning.
No, super interesting. Yes. Arguably the harder of the two. Definitely listen more rather than talk. I feel like, yeah, I love that. But I'll open things up to the floor. Rossio, I saw that you had quite a couple of questions in the chat already. So just going to invite you to the stage. Feel free to kind of join us here. If not, can definitely kind of say the questions out loud. So maybe perhaps we can do the first question asked, which is, what do you advise for those who start in Web3 dev world?
I would say go to events. like there's so many meetups, hackathons, conferences all around the world. Sometimes it feels like too much, but like that's where you start meeting the right people. That's where you also see which projects are doing good things, which maybe don't do that good things, and kind of what find also your passion and like where you want to contribute. And the other one is like really leverage that everything is so open. Not just that like a lot of discussions in forums is open, or you can join pretty much every project's Discord and just interact with the team. But also that like a lot of the code bases are open. You can really see how things work up until like the core infrastructure, like the protocol level of the blockchains, and how things interact, like how also the standards, like for example the ERP kind of standards come together in discussions in the Ethereum Magicians Forum. Like everything is incredibly open, and it's so easy to just start learning, start understanding how things work, and get in touch with the right people.
Yeah, no, love that advice. Do connect. As we've previously mentioned, everyone kind of in the space is super, super supportive. So love that advice. And just to go off the second question that Rocio said, do you know Latin America talent, developers and projects, and what do you think of them?
I'm not sure if I have some qualified opinion on that. I mean, I do actually see a lot of like people from Latin America that see also like our space a little bit differently, as in they also experience like things differently, like maybe institutions that are not that stable, or maybe like currency inflation, which me sitting here in Zurich in Switzerland, like I don't know these things exist, or I don't. I mean, Credit Suisse happened recently, but usually institutions are quite stable, currency is stable, and like we don't need necessarily that big of a of like an option B as in other areas. And I see especially in Latin America that people are really know the value also of digital currencies as a payment technology, or as a way to also opt out of nation state currencies. And that also brings like a quite a different perspective on things, and the different kind of passion. But besides that, not sure if I have a good opinion. I do have one strong opinion though, that like when we look at like the Web3 space today, I think we always praise ourselves to be extremely inclusive, and that's definitely true to some extent. But if we look at especially like the applications we build, kind of what geographies they target, they do still very much target Europe, like Northern America, kind of the Western world, English speaking world particularly, also quite and what I think we need to improve is also address other geographies, make sure that like documentation, applications, etc., are also like accessible in, for example, Spanish or Portuguese, or like just everything else besides just English, because otherwise we create something that's very useful for like a group of people that might actually not need it that much, and instead we should like also show accessibility in that sense.
No, totally agree. Accessibility for sure. Really interesting points actually to make. So for the next question, I'm just going to invite Jelly to the stage. Of course, feel free. If you can't talk now, do let us know. But if not, I can definitely say the question. Jelly asking, tech is really cool and has so many new developments. Do you think AI will eclipse blockchain? Are all the good tech people going toward AI instead?
Well, no, I don't think so. I mean, obviously, there's like different technologies that always are quite hot topics, and I think right now AI is rightfully so something that if you're technical, you should definitely look into. There's like a lot that needs to be built, a lot that can a lot of ways how you can change people's lives by kind of leveraging AI in many different ways. But yeah, for me, like I personally could not imagine doing anything else than Web3 right now. And that's not because of the technology itself, but more because of the community and kind of the values that are inherent to the technology. So I do think many others will feel the same. And but obviously there will be people that are that just want to go on the newest thing, and that might also prefer AI, or maybe investors that are a little bit burned in the last months and see more better ways to deploy capital in the AI sector. But I mean, that's just natural.
Amazing. We'll move to Dimitri's question next. Hi, brilliant.
Hi. Hi, Lucas. Thank you for coming here. It's really interesting to hear what you're saying. So my question is, what's your opinion on Soulbound tokens and the wallet apps that require you to enter private keys or a passphrase into the wallet app itself, and that basically render safe unusable in this kind of apps, so you cannot connect a wallet that you don't have a private key for, like a multi-sig or a safe wallet. What's your opinion on this tech, and how can we improve this?
Can you repeat the second part?
Yeah, the wallet apps like Rainbow or something that you cannot just enter your Ethereum address to connect to apps on your mobile phone. You have to enter a seed phrase or a private key into it.
I mean, I forgot the first question.
So my question is, how can we improve the infrastructure, the ecosystem that helps you use different wallet apps with multi-sig and with safe specifically?
Okay. I mean, we're now seeing the transition from like private key based accounts to smart accounts. That's what's usually called account abstraction. So the idea of the ecosystem at large is that at some point all accounts will be smart contract based, because they're just in any way better than just a simple private key. Because like worst case, you just have like a smart contract based account that is only controlled by a private key, and then you have like a lot of benefits of smart accounts, but still have this like one private key if you really just want that. And what's interesting about this like development is that this could mean that we will see some fragmentation, where some wallets will start implementing their own smart account implementations, and like the worst case scenario would then be that accounts will stop being portable, meaning that you generate an account in MetaMask and then you can only use it in the MetaMask UI because it's like a very custom implementation, and only the MetaMask UI is optimized for that. And then you have all the wallets having their own implementations, and you can just always only use the UI which initially gave you that account, which is like a very bad development, because right now what's really cool about the private key accounts, even though there's like a lot of bad things about it, but like you can use a MetaMask account in a ledger, in a trust, like you can move it everywhere. If you stop kind of seeing the benefit of one wallet, you just use another one. And that's, for me, that's like the power of Web3, that you're not locked into this one system. And that might get lost if you don't do things properly with account abstraction. And so the idea that is behind Safe really is that we want to build this kind of core like account, which then can be extended with different functionality. And multi-sig is actually just one program which you can run on a Safe account, but you could use it without multi-sig. You could use it with like a spending limit, or you can use it in like you can attach these so-called modules and just modify the account as you wish. And if we are able to build an ecosystem around this, where you say we just decide this kind of one core thing is we're all sticking to that, and then we just build our modules around that, then we can retain the portability of accounts and make sure that you can use many different interfaces with the same account. And like right now, there's about 60 plus interfaces building on Safe. So you can already generate a Safe account in Linen wallet. You can then use it in CoinShift, move it to Parcel, use it with like our wallet, which is Safe Wallet. So that already works quite nicely, but this requires like a lot of coordination, and this is our purpose, that we build this ecosystem. We rally a lot of people as possible around this shared smart account standard. Yeah, and you also mentioned with like dApps not interacting with multi-sig. That's also one challenge that we need to resolve, that like the dApps still assume every account that you plug into them to be a simple private key account. And then they might be surprised if suddenly a transaction takes 5 hours to complete because you need to kind of collect your multi-sig signatures. Or they're surprised that the account cannot do like an ECD, say, recover. Like they don't deal well with smart contract based signatures. So we need to kind of make sure that dApps have this logic where they know smart accounts exist and that dApps works the same way as with regular accounts. But I think this is underway, because with like in the last months, people realize account abstraction is coming. We need to be ready. We cannot just ignore this. And we got a lot more awareness in the last months.
Thank you. Thank you. Very informative. Thank you.
Thanks, Dimitri, for your question. I'll call up Lux now if you would like to come on stage to say your question. Again, feel free to let me know if you cannot come at this moment. Totally understand. Just let me know in the chat. If not, I can definitely just read out the question.
Hey, thanks for the chance. So my question, let me find it again. So I want to know what do you see as the biggest opportunities and challenges faces in the DeFi space in the upcoming years, and also how are you guys preparing for this? Like not just preparing, but positioning yourself to be the top ones.
I would say the biggest challenges that our industry faces, I mean, one is definitely kind of the regulatory environment, but more from a technical perspective, we need to ensure that what we're building is, for once, it's scalable. It brings utility to people. It's accessible and it's secure. That's for me kind of the 4 things we should figure out, like the scalability, obviously with layer 2s and like with more efficient layer 1s. Like there's a lot of projects working on that. Utility part, like we need to make sure we're building not just tools for people that are already rich to speculate on things, but like build something that brings real value to real people, and also things that may be more like around communication, entertainment, gaming, social. These things will probably bring in like a lot more people than just pure finance, which was the focus in the last years, because finance is a big part of everyone's lives, but it's not the only part, and definitely not the biggest part for many people. Then accessibility, that goes back to things just still being way too complicated to use, and still not localized to different geographies, and still not targeting people that maybe not that technical, things like that. And then finally, security. Like if something brings you value, it's accessible to use, and it's built on a scalable infrastructure, so many people can use it. But there's still hacks every day, people getting phished, like DeFi protocols getting compromised. Like this is not gonna succeed. And this particularly, if we don't figure out the security part, like regulators will get more and more nervous, because their job is also to protect users and protect people. And like if they see people like losing their private keys, getting phished, protocols getting hacked, like they would want to remove this thing. So this, we also definitely need to make a lot more progress, where like the default should be that things are secure, and not always, we don't have these horror stories every day. And maybe with Safe particularly, we're focusing on the accessibility and the security part. So accessibility as in making interactions with Web3 more user-friendly, also being able to abstract away a lot of the complexities, such as like gas management, for example. Recently, we had this feature where on Gnosis chain, all transactions for users are just sponsored. Like they can onboard user safe. They never have to preload it with any native coin to pay for transaction fees. Like these kinds of features will allow much more people to get first experiences with Web3. And the security part, for sure, like there we contribute the most. Either by building things where you can have multi-factor authentication, which is quite common in like the traditional finance world, but still today most people use like a MetaMask, which is really just a one-factor thing where like if this gets compromised, all your assets are gone. And like you can do so much more with say smart accounts where you can have rules in the account that kind of check on risk for transactions, and if something is like too risky, it kind of gets flagged and the transaction doesn't go through. And like these kinds of things you can implement, which just makes this space much more secure to use. Yeah, I hope that answered the question.
Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thanks so much for your question. Just calling on Fundal, if you wanted to join us on stage to say your question. No worries if not. I can just read it out right now. So they're asking, what obstacles did you face trying to grow a Web3 project, like getting traditional funding? How did you manage to solve these issues? So
I would assume here funding means like funding for the project, as in capital. So luckily, because Safe was originally built within Gnosis, Gnosis was fully financing all the development. That really was because what we were building is something Gnosis needed. Gnosis did its ICO in 2017. They had like a lot of digital assets they had to manage, and there was no solution out there that was really secure enough to manage these assets. They didn't want to just put it on a private key and have the single point of failure. So they built Gnosis Safe as an internal tool to have multi-factor, multi-signature control over these assets, which is much more secure. And then they just open sourced the project. The entire ecosystem started adopting it, and they had to commit more and more resources to maintain the project, build up a team around it. And then at some point it became like too big to just be something that Gnosis does on the side, where Gnosis started to have more conviction that Gnosis chain is really what they want to put all the resources on. So we did the spin-off, and at that point the project was already so distributed and well known that we could get support from external backers. And there also we like the fundraise we did last year to continue funding the project, that was led by 1KX, and that was like the people from 1KX, they were sitting out of the same office in Berlin, so we knew them for years, and so this was quite lucky in that sense, as in like we kind of knew, we trusted these people, and then they supported us on getting some more people in to join the fundraise. The bit unfortunate thing was that during the fundraise, then suddenly the Terra situation happened, and this kind of shook up the entire market, and everyone was a little bit cautious on like how they deploy money, and was getting very risk averse. And we also had some that committed to participating that just got bankrupt at that time. So that was a bit, a bit not the kind of most comfortable times for us. But luckily we got things together, and then we were able to continue the project being self-funded from then on, outside of Gnosis. And yeah, I think that's also quite valuable if you then start having this like raising your own money, and then knowing also how to not overspend that money, or like if something is getting funded from kind of the parent company, it's quite easy to just ignore the costs associated with it, but we've become also quite wary on like how we spend the money, because we know how difficult it is to get new funding, especially during that market.
Yeah, thank you, Lukas, for contributing to the Encode community. So yeah, because I'm trying to develop a project, but I'm faced that the traditional sector do not understand what the technical side is, and they are some skeptic about that. So how could you help to convince to found a company on that sector in Web3?
The question is, why would you want to raise from like traditional investors over, like, there's a lot of people in the Web3 space, a lot of investors that really know the technologies and that know you don't have to explain how things work. And what do you think would be the value of getting traditional investors?
Yeah, because it's a local project, so I'm looking for local funding. So yeah.
I know, like, I feel, especially during the Corona pandemic, venture capital investment has become so global. Like in our fundraise, I mean, it was pretty much during the midst of the lockdowns. We couldn't meet anyone in person, and everyone was just distributed around the world. And you can raise money from people in Asia, from people in Americas. It doesn't really matter where you are. Yeah, but maybe.
Thank you so much for your question. I'm just gonna ask if Joshua would like to come up and ask his question. If not, of course, can definitely say it out loud. We might be having some technical difficulties. If that's the case, Joshua's asking, are you looking to headhunt hackathon winners?
I mean, we're always on the look for great talent, and hackathon winners usually they show that they're passionate about your project, and it's very easy to see where their strengths are. So yeah, we're also for us, like, when someone builds on Safe on a hackathon, that should be really just the beginning of a journey. Like we also plan to have like a grants program later on this year, and maybe like an accelerator program, and like a lot of support programs that should get people beyond just the hackathon. And we're quite supportive in that sense, where like recently there was EVE India, where like a hackathon in Bangalore, and there was a project building on Safe there, and they afterwards just were excited about it and want to continue. And now they're like a venture funded project just less than half a year later, like going through accelerators and kind of being kind of quite some potential there. But yeah, if we didn't hire someone yet that did win a hackathon building on Safe, but I think we're using hackathons definitely for seeing, like, meeting people, and then also potentially having them involved. And for us, it's not actually important that we have people within the project after a hackathon, but we're building an ecosystem. We want to have the best talent in that ecosystem, whether that's directly with Safe or with projects that are building on Safe. We actually have like a key result that we recently discussed or said that, like, until in 3 years we want to have 5,000 jobs created in this Safe ecosystem, and probably only a fraction of that will be with Safe itself. But like, we want to bring people into the different projects to CoinShift, to Parcel, to Utopia Labs, like all the nice projects that build on Safe.
Super interesting. As you heard it from here, get hacking, guys. But yeah, next question. I'll ask Josh if you want to participate on the stage. Of course, again, if not, totally fine. Can definitely read out the question. Okay, awesome. I have found incredible Web3 job opportunities around the world online. However, I'm USA based and I'm running into challenges. Any advice on international companies hiring from the US?
That's definitely a tricky one. And the thing is, like the US regulatory environment is quite hostile at the moment, as in that many projects try to not create any explicit nexus with the US market, and that also involves having ideally like a little to no team in the US, and that's just an unfortunate truth. And that's kind of the one side, and the other side is also like as the global workforce market, or the workforce market is getting more global. Also, US salaries are like, it's getting harder and harder for projects to justify paying double the price for like the same skill set. Like where we already see it with being mostly based in Europe, like the US salary expectations are usually 50 to 100% higher. And so I'm not sure if that's a cause of the kind of the struggles that you describe, but I could see this being one of the reasons. But to be honest, I'm not quite sure how I would go about resolving that, because like it's kind of a weak answer to just say move out of the US, or like lower your salary expectations, or whatever might be the struggle there. But what I do think is it's still quite valuable for projects to have, especially also English native speakers. So that's like definitely something that for us is also quite important, that we have on the marketing side, for example, have people from the US or from other English speaking countries. But yeah, I'm not sure that is really the answer that you were looking for.
Amazing. So on the next question, I'm just going to invite Katja to the stage. Also great to hear that you're participating in our Gnosis Hackathon, which is amazing. But if not, Katja asks a very interesting question. How is Safe going to run the world? What is your roadmap?
I do think at some point that like Safe will be quite a critical thing in the world. Maybe run like we're not going to run the world, but I hope the world will run on Safe at some point. Whereas, and probably it goes into a direction where most people will use Safe on a daily basis, not even knowing that they do. The same way that pretty much every one of us uses Linux on a daily basis, but we just don't know it because it's like in gadgets, it's in servers that we rely on, and like that it's kind of often in the background. And Safe has the possibility that it goes into a similar direction, where like Safe as a smart account will be used by other projects to build experiences, to build easy onboarding into Web3 and more secure custody systems. But most people will not explicitly know that. I mean, even people that use Bitfinex as an exchange today, they might not know that their assets are sitting on a Safe, because Bitfinex is putting these assets on a Safe. So kind of that's kind of how I see Safe or the world run on Safe in the future. In terms of roadmap, I mean, we pretty much everything we do is open source, so we can also just look at our GitHub repositories, like the milestones we have there, the issues, see what we're working on. But what we are probably mostly be focusing on the next 6 months is pushing further the Safe core stack. So that's like the developer stack that we're building to enable account abstraction for others. So we have been working on like a first version that has some things like easy fiat on ramp. It has ways for developers to create gasless experiences through like a Gelato integration and like easy like social login onboarding via Web3 auth. And we have like some of these integrations. And what we now want to do is to extend this account abstraction dev tooling and have more of like these partner integrations in there, where developers can also choose I might want to have in my wallet, in my app, I want to have this fiat on-ramp, or I want to use this way to make gasless experiences, and kind of expanding that and making this like a very collaborative effort with the ecosystem, that we're building this kind of one developer stack that we can all kind of use and kind of build account abstraction on top. And then another focus will also be modules. So I think I mentioned before that we have like a Safe Smart account is kind of the kind of basic account, can be extended through modules. These are additional smart contracts that are attached to the account and can give you features such as like a spending limits, or you can implement hierarchies in there, or you can create automations that create like subscription on your account, and like things like that. And we see a lot of interest also from people at hackathons, for example, to build these modules and to create these new features that then plug into the wider Safe ecosystem. But it's still very hard to bring trust to those modules, because they're like smart contracts and they're quite security critical, as in if you start using a module that has some like security flaw, you might compromise the entire security of your account. And so we're going to be working more on like creating a standard around these modules, creating like interfaces that everyone can use, and also creating ways then how we can bring security guarantees that, when you use this one module, it kind of has like different checks in place that you can rely on it, and like every module then automatically has like a bug bounty running on it, and the cafe plugs into this bigger protocol. So that's a core focus for the next 6 months. But yeah, I would say if you want to have the details, go to our GitHub. It's pretty much public there.
Amazing, some exciting stuff happening, guys. But yeah, asking Andy to join up stage for the next question. Please do let me know. If not, totally fine. Andy is asking, is there a way I can generate safe multi-sig Vanity addresses?
Yeah, so Vanity addresses are like addresses that have like a very specific kind of combination or like kind of phrase in there. So it maybe starts with 0x11111, something like this, and people want to have like an address where they kind of want to have like a very specific ending or kind of beginning, because it's cool, or it's more easily to remember. And I'm going to drop actually in the chat a link to a tool, because this is possible with Safe, where you can just compute a specific address where you can say, I want like my Safe Smart account to start with certain a combination of like letters or numbers. And yeah, I think it's quite cool. I'm not sure how well it is maintained, but at least a year ago when I last checked it worked.
Amazing, amazing. Philip, if you'd like, come to the stage to say a question. Hi.
Hello. I hope you hear me well. Yes?
Okay.
All right. Hello, Lucas. So my questions are very general, but I'm sure the answers will be very specific, which I'm hoping to be with regards to Web3 field. So the first question is, can you share some key strategies that have helped Safe grow as a startup? And what advice would you give to aspiring entrepreneurs looking to launch their own business in crypto? So key strategies and advice for crypto entrepreneurs just starting up.
Yeah.
If you have anything specific.
Yeah, I mean, maybe general, I think timing is super critical. We've been building like a mobile-based solution on Safe 5 years ago, that was targeting like a retail persona. But that was back then where there were no dApps, there were no retail users, and we invested 2 years building something where there was no one around. And that's when we then shifted and we built something more for like teams that were managing a treasury, because these people were already around. There were already projects building, and they had to have their own treasury and so on. And that then started the flywheel where we actually had users, we got feedback, we could iterate on it. And now only 5 years later, we see really the potential to build something more for like retail users, because finally we get like a lot of this type of users in the space. And so what we built back then, if we would launch it today, it would be kind of called like an innovation, but back then it was just at the wrong time, at the wrong place.
So a really good product market fit, I guess, if I'm not mistaken, would be the advice, right?
Yeah,
and
product market fit. Just build also for people that are around today, and not for the ones that are you think they will be in the future, because then you cannot learn from that. You just invest too much time building something that then maybe no one will actually want.
Yeah, I feel you. Okay, and the second question is also with regards to entrepreneurship. So how did you go about building the team at Safe, and what qualities or skills do you prioritize when hiring new team members to ensure the success of your startup?
So I think what's quite underrated is how well like a candidate fits into like the culture of a project. And we do this at Safe, where we have like a designated culture / values fit interview, where we're really into like we value, for example, like growing like sustainably. We don't want to have like for example, quick marketing initiatives that bring a lot of growth but then are not sustainable in the long run. We rather grow slower but more consistently, and we want to like build for people. We don't want to build for just for the sake of creating technologies, and like these things are very core to what we are at Safe. And when we hire new people, we want to have people that align with these goals, because that's like very strong beliefs. And if you like, it's really hard to work with people that have different core values than the wider team has. And also we built the team quite slowly, actually. We're now around 50 people, but for a project that's around for 5 years, that's actually not that much. Like there's been projects that were just founded last year and have already 200 people. And for us, this is also key to our like hiring strategy. We want to not hire like comfort hires that are just like kind of comfortable to have, but only if we have like a very strong need and like we need really a person, then we start hiring for it. And that also helped us now also in like the recent times where like a lot of people foresee like an extended bear market, and a lot of projects start reducing their team sizes. For us, it was clear like we have the team that we actually need, and we cannot let go of anyone. And so we also kind of live there our kind of grow consistently value, where we want to grow the team and not have like 200 people on one day and then just 50 people the next day.
I have actually one more question that it occurred to me. I'm curious. I have my own way, but I'm curious to see how a successful founder is doing it. So how do you stay up to date with the latest trends and developments in blockchain and crypto industry? Is it crypto Twitter, or you got something else?
I mean, I do think Twitter is really a powerful tool. Like if you follow the right people there, and you need to be quite conscious of like who you follow, because it immediately puts you into a filter bubble. But then like I just need to check Twitter once a day, and I kind of know what's happening in the fields that I'm interested in. I also listen a lot to podcasts, but this is then more for like in-depth topics where I just there's like, what is it, like CK rollups, like how do they really work, like who are the stakeholders in there. Like if I really want to deep dive into one specific topics, usually podcasts are the best way for me, because I'm also I hate reading, and I think reading is kind of the kind of worst way to consume information, because like I listen to podcasts at like 1.5 to 2.x speed, so like I can consume much more information at the same time. But reading, like I have some kind of limit how fast I can read and still remember things. So,
yeah. And another bonus question: what podcasts would you recommend to keep up with these specific topics that you talked about?
I like, for example, Unchained with Laura Shin. I like the Web3 podcast from Andreessen Horowitz. I'm not quite sure how it's called, but they really deep dive on topics, and they're usually quite high quality produced. I like the Devs Do Something podcast from Sam Flamini from Superfluid. Like it's really focused on what's relevant for developers and not what's kind of more high level. So they really do more like a technical deep dive on things. And yeah, I'm curious, what's your favorite podcast?
Actually, I'm only on crypto Twitter, but that's why I was actually asking to kind of remember and look up this stuff. As I said, podcasts are really not my thing, but I heard positive things. It's a great way to keep up with stuff. So that's it from me. And yeah, bye guys. Thank you for answering my questions.
Appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Philip, for your questions. Has been definitely one that I'm definitely taking note of. Cautious of time, so this might be just the last quick question. Nikunj asked, how do you get involved in the Web3 community for beginners and kind of getting the best out of it?
So how as a beginner you should get involved in the Web3 community?
Yeah,
I think we had a similar question before, where we would say go to events, go to hackathons, jump into Discords, participate in forums. It's all open. Just get to know people, and the people will show you the way.
Awesome. But yeah, thanks guys for joining. I think that's all the time we have now. Again, links are posted in the chat if you want to connect. As we were literally just saying, it's a very friendly community, so do pop us any questions you have. And again, massive thank you to Lukas for joining us today. But before we end today's session, I just wanted to make a quick note. We do actually have our own Gnosis Hackathon happening in May, and we'd love for you all to join. Sending the links in the chat right now. But yes, please do join us. Links are here. We'd love to see you kind of get involved with us too. But again, massive thank you to everyone. And again, to Lukas for joining us. I hope everyone has a great morning, evening, afternoon, day in general, wherever you are in the world. But again, thanks so much, everyone.